Do you believe your birth date is just a number? Something random, chosen by chance? According to Buddhist teachings, the exact date you were born not only carries the DNA of your karma, but also reveals the deepest challenges you came to face in this life. And note, this isn't shallow numerology or superstition. It's ancient spiritual wisdom, validated by thousands of years of conscious observation. From the moment you were born, your soul already carried an invisible energy field, a spiritual map that reveals the patterns that repeat, the relationships you attract, and the obstacles you can't seem to avoid. And all of this is hidden in your birth date, a silent code that's been with you since your first breath and that you may have never deciphered. But what if I told you this code can be revealed? That your birth date has a primary number, called the karmic number, which clearly shows why certain events seem to repeat, why you attract certain types of people, and why some paths close without explanation. None of this is by chance. It all has a reason, and that reason can be uncovered now. In this video, you'll learn how to calculate your karmic number and what it reveals about the blockages you need to release, the strengths you need to activate, and the most important lesson your soul must learn in this lifetime. We'll talk about hidden karmas, forgotten gifts, unconscious repetitions, and the real chance to transform all of this if you're ready. And stay until the end, because after calculating your number, I'll show you how to use it as a spiritual guide. Something to steer your decisions, free you from toxic cycles, and show you how to turn heavy energy into light. If you feel your life has a mission but don't yet know what it is, the answer might be in the numbers of your birth. If you enjoy topics like health, prosperity, and spirituality, give a like now, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell, not out of obligation, but as a gesture of connection with this path of self-discovery you've chosen to walk. And to seal this moment, comment below, "I accept learning what my karma wants to teach me." This phrase is more than a comment, it's a commitment to your own evolution. A way to tell the universe and yourself that you're ready to break cycles and access a new version of your consciousness. Let's do this together. Few people realize, but at the exact moment we're born, something far deeper happens than just the start of biological life. The soul, upon incarnating, brings an invisible baggage, a silent energy field carrying traces of everything it's experienced. And within this field, there's a number. A number not chosen by chance or assigned randomly. It's directly tied to your birth date and represents the spiritual vibration that will accompany your journey until the last day of this life. This is the karmic number. This number is like a spiritual signature. It symbolically carries the lessons your soul still needs to learn, the patterns it needs to transcend, and the fragments of past life experiences that still need resolution. And we're not talking about a metaphor or poetic symbol. We're talking about a real, energetic, profound archetype of frequency that influences your behavior, relationships, decisions, and even the types of challenges you attract. Every soul that comes to this world has a purpose, not in the commercial sense, but in the most intimate and true sense, a purpose of evolution. And this karmic number reveals which part of your soul still needs to mature. It shows where there's still imbalance, where there are repetitions, where a lesson was left incomplete in another life and now needs to be completed. This number points to the most sensitive issues of your journey, those that often hurt but also liberate. Many people go through life thinking they're experiencing something new, when in reality, they're just repeating ancient patterns. Patterns from long before, from other lifetimes. They repeat toxic relationships, sabotage opportunities, live cycles of scarcity, face emotional blockages that seem inexplicable. But there is an explanation. These cycles are called karmic contracts. And the karmic number is the key to understanding why these contracts are still active. This number clearly represents which inner strengths you need to develop and which weaknesses you need to overcome. It speaks of the virtues you have dormant that need to be awakened. It speaks of the shadows you've faced in the past that now return, not to punish you, but to be illuminated with greater maturity. Nothing it points to is punishment. Everything is learning. Everything is a course correction. Everything is an opportunity for liberation. Knowing your karmic number is like shining light on a map that was dark. You start to understand why certain pains keep repeating, why certain people enter your life with such force, and even why, at times, you feel trapped within yourself, unable to move forward. This number reveals what needs to be learned, and more than that. It shows how to find peace within experiences that previously only caused frustration. Above all, it's a reminder, a silent reminder your soul has carried since birth, as if saying, "You came back to learn this, and only when you learn will you no longer need to return." To find your karmic number, you'll only need your full birth date. That means the day you were born, the month, and the year. Each of these parts carries a specific energy, and when we add them all together carefully, we arrive at a number between 1 and 9, the number that represents your soul's spiritual mission in this life and the lessons you still need to complete. The first thing you'll do is look at the day of your birth. For example, if you were born on the 17th, you'll add the 2 digits. 1 plus 7, the result is 8. If you were born on the 29th, it would be 2 plus 9, which equals 11. And since that's still 2 digits, you add again 1 plus 1, which equals 2. The goal is always to reach a single digit. So, with the day, you now have the first simplified number. Next, you'll do the same with the month. January is month number 1, February is 2, and so on. But for October, November, or December months 10, 11, and 12, you'll add the digits 2. For example, if it's November, which is month 11, you add 1 plus 1, which equals 2. December, which is 12, becomes 1 plus 2, which equals 3. The key is always to keep adding until you get a single digit. Now, let's move to the birth year with a bit more attention. Here, you need to add all the digits separately. For example, if someone was born in 1974, you add like this: 1 plus 9 equals 10. Then add 7. 10 plus 7 equals 17. Then add 4. 17 plus 4 equals 21. Now, reduce that number to a single digit. 2 plus 1 equals 3. This final number is the one you'll keep. Now that you have the reduced number for the day, the reduced number for the month, and the reduced number for the year, all single digits, it's time for the most important step: adding these 3 numbers to find your final karmic number. Let's use a practical example to make it clearer. Suppose, after doing all the calculations correctly, you got the number 6 for the day, 1 for the month, and 4 for the year. These are the 3 individual numbers representing parts of your birth date. Now, you'll add these 3 values. First, add the day number to the month number. 6 plus 1 equals 7. Then, add that result to the year number. 7 plus 4 equals 11. Since this total still has 2 digits 11, we need to reduce it again. Just add 1 plus 1. The result is 2. This final number, 2, is your karmic number. This is the number that represents the type of spiritual energy accompanying your soul in this life. It speaks to your mission, the patterns that repeat, the challenges carried from past lives, and the qualities you need to develop. This final number, between 1 and 9, isn't random. It was chosen by your soul before you were born, like a silent reminder of what you came to resolve, balance, and deepen. It acts as a map, a mirror of what your soul wants to heal. And knowing this number can change how you understand your story, your pains, and even why some situations keep repeating. If you got lost in the process or couldn't calculate your number correctly, don't worry. It's more common than it seems. And the most important thing is that you're trying to understand something deep about yourself. If you're having trouble, write your full birth date in the comments, and surely someone in the community or even us here will help you. Now that you know your karmic number and understand it's not just a result of calculations, but a profound reflection of your soul and spiritual past. It's time for the most revealing part of this journey, discovering what this number really means. If your karmic number is 1, know that your soul carries a mission tied to autonomy, identity, and spiritual leadership. You came to the world to become someone who guides not just externally, in work or family, but in the deepest sense of existence, guiding yourself. In past lives, you may have lived situations where you were too submissive, dimmed yourself to please others, or simply had no space to express your own will. In this life, everything challenging you is pushing you toward the opposite, awakening your personal power. The energy of number 1 is directly tied to building a conscious self. This means you'll constantly be placed in situations where you need to make decisions alone, stand up for yourself even when it's uncomfortable, or stay firm in choices that go against what others expect. Not because life wants to test you, but because it's in this movement that your soul grows. Your karma lies in the fear of asserting yourself, and the healing lies in the courage to become who you are, without depending on others' approval. Often, those with number 1 feel like they're always swimming against the tide. It seems like everything requires more effort, that nothing comes easy, that people don't truly understand you. And this can create a deep sense of loneliness or even injustice. But what's happening behind this is much deeper. Your soul didn't come here to follow the flow, it came to carve a path where no one has gone before. You're being trained to be a root, not a branch, to be a foundation, not a shadow. One of the great lessons of this vibration is transforming individuality into conscious leadership. It's not about being the best, it's not about being ahead, it's about inspiring by example. Life will demand integrity from you. It will place you in situations where no one wants to take responsibility, and then, almost naturally, you'll be led to step up where others shy away. And though this may feel heavy at first, over time you'll realize, this is your place. You didn't come to follow, you came to clear the way. On the flip side, the imbalance of this energy shows up when you try to force control, when you want to solve everything alone, or when you start confusing strength with rigidity. People with number 1 need to be very careful with ego disguised as independence. The danger is closing off too much, isolating yourself, or believing you need to prove something all the time. When this happens, leadership turns into authoritarianism, and courage turns into stubbornness. The healing lies in balance, firmness without harshness, decision with listening, autonomy without isolation. A major spiritual challenge for number 1 is learning to trust. Trust that you don't need to carry everything alone. Trust that your identity doesn't depend on comparison. And above all, trust that you can be strong without ceasing to be human. Many souls with this number carry deep wounds of rejection, and so they build emotional armor. But the true spiritual leader doesn't lead from above, they guide with presence. And your greatest strength isn't in protecting yourself, but in allowing yourself to be. If you have number 1, your path is one of inner construction. You're here to remember who you are with firmness and truth. And once you claim that space, you'll notice life stops challenging you as much. Because karma only persists until the lesson is learned. And when you stand up, take your place, and respect yourself, doors open, cycles align, and the mission, at last, is fulfilled. If your karmic number is 2, your soul carries a mission deeply tied to harmony, sensitivity, empathy, and building true connections. The essence of this number lies in learning to relate in a balanced, honest way without losing your own identity. In past lives, you may have experienced situations where your feelings were ignored, where you had to erase yourself to keep the peace, or suffered from emotional dependency. In this life, the invitation is clear. Develop emotional maturity. People with number 2 are usually born with above-average sensitivity. You feel the environment. You pick up on others' pain easily. Sometimes, even before someone speaks, you know something's wrong. This keen perception is a spiritual gift, but when it's not understood, it can become a burden. Because alongside this sensitivity often comes insecurity, the fear of displeasing, disappointing, or being rejected. And so, you start erasing yourself to maintain others' love. The great karma here is the imbalance between giving and receiving. Those with number 2 tend to care too much, listen too much, give too much, but they forget themselves in the process. And this leads to relationships where you always feel secondary, or situations where you pour yourself out intensely and don't receive the same in return. This doesn't happen because the world is cruel. It happens because your soul needs to learn to place itself at the center of its own life without losing its sweetness. This number teaches, profoundly, that true peace only comes from emotional truth. It's no use avoiding conflicts or swallowing feelings just to keep things light. That only builds pain. The mission of number 2 is to learn to communicate with gentleness, but also with firmness. The soul needs to learn to say what it feels, express what it needs, and understand that keeping harmony isn't the same as pretending everything's fine. Another common challenge for those with this number is a tendency toward emotional dependency. You may lean too heavily on someone, and when that person pulls away or doesn't reciprocate, the ground disappears. This reveals that the center of your strength is still outside you. The great lesson here is to build a solid inner foundation where your worth doesn't depend on anyone's acceptance. It's about loving yourself first, so you can then love others with balance. When this number is well worked, it transforms into one of the greatest spiritual powers, the gift of uniting. You become someone who heals with words, embraces with a glance, transforms environments with your mere presence. You become a bridge where there was only distance. But to reach this point, you need to stop running from your own truth. You need to let go of seeking acceptance and start seeking relationships that nourish, not drain. If you have number 2, you're here to turn your sensitivity into wisdom, to stop living for others and start building a peace that comes from within. When you learn to stand up with respect, keep your energy clean, and love yourself with firmness, the karma begins to dissolve. Relationships improve, intuition sharpens. And you discover that true harmony is born when you have the courage to be whole even if it displeases those who only want halves. Let's dive in. Now we're at karmic number 3, and if this is your number, you carry a mission deeply tied to expression, creativity, and emotional communication. The soul, with 3 as its primary energy, came to the world with the task of using its voice as an instrument of healing for itself and others. But this path doesn't always start clear. In past lives, there may have been repression, forced silence, shame for speaking out, or even punishment for saying what you thought. In this life, the karma revolves around reclaiming the freedom to express yourself with truth and lightness. People with number 3 usually have a lively, sensitive, often artistic energy. Creativity tends to manifest naturally, whether through words, music, humor, art, or even how they relate to others. There's a spontaneous spark, a contagious joy, a unique ability to turn heavy environments into lighter ones. But at the same time, this gift can turn into pain, if not channeled healthily. When the soul stays silent out of fear, or when creativity is stifled, emptiness arises, and with it, discouragement. The great spiritual challenge for those with this number is dealing with the emotional instability that comes from inner repression. Often, number 3 experiences intense highs and lows, moments of deep excitement followed by drops, apathy, or even sadness. This happens because when the soul of 3 doesn't find an outlet for expression, it shuts down and the world loses its shine. This oscillation isn't a flaw. It's a sign that the soul needs creative freedom and space to feel and speak without fear. Another key point of this karma is the use of words. Those with 3 often have a knack for communication, but this ease can also become a trap. There's a big risk of using words to please too much, avoid conflict, or hide behind humor. The soul needs to learn that truth is also expression even if it unsettles. The healing lies in stopping the softening of everything, in letting what's true be said with respect but without fear. There's also a strong tendency toward dispersion. The creative energy of 3 is so intense that often the person starts multiple projects and finishes none, or gets excited quickly about something, then loses focus soon after. This can create frustration, a sense of incapacity, or guilt. The soul needs to learn, then, to balance inspiration with discipline. The mission here is to turn ideas into action, vision into realization. Without this, the karma of waste repeats. Unused talents, shelved dreams, gifts that go to waste. When number 3 is in balance, it becomes a bridge between the invisible and the visible. The person starts expressing their soul authentically, touching the lives of those around them with sensitivity and truth. Communication becomes a tool for transformation, and humorance, a shield, becomes medicine. Everything improves. Relationships, self-esteem, clarity. The soul finds purpose when it finds its own voice. If this is your number, know that your journey is about reconnecting with the natural joy of being who you are, without masks, without cuts, without fear of judgment. Your healing lies in expressing, creating, sharing, inspiring. Don't silence yourself anymore. Your truth is needed. And the more you allow yourself to be whole, the more you'll see that the universe doesn't want you to hide it, wants you to shine. If your karmic number is 4, your soul carries a mission tied to structure, stability, discipline, and inner construction. The energy of this number is deeply connected to the idea of foundation, roots, responsibility. In past lives, there may have been disorganization, excessive impulsiveness, or even a life marked by dependence on others. Now, in this existence, your spirit comes with a clear call to learn to create solid foundations, both in the material world and in your emotional life. The soul with 4 as its karmic number often feels, from early on, a call for security, order, and control. You might be someone who feels uncomfortable with the unexpected, struggles with sudden changes, and needs routine to feel at peace. But this desire for control isn't always healthy. It can turn into rigidity, fear of taking risks, or difficulty trusting life's processes. And this is precisely your point of spiritual work, learning that order isn't rigidity and firmness doesn't need to mean harshness. The karma of number 4 often manifests as a weight, the feeling that you need to take care of everything and everyone all the time. Excessive responsibility can lead to emotional exhaustion, overload, and even a sense that if you relax, everything will collapse. But this is a trap. The lesson here is to learn to trust the flow, delegate, share the burden without feeling like you're failing. Your soul needs to understand that real stability only exists with balance, and no one holds up the world alone. Many people with this number live with the idea that they need to earn the right to rest. They're always busy, always doing something, always worried about tomorrow. But number 4 also brings an important call. You didn't come here just to produce. You came to build a life with meaning, and that includes pleasure, rest, emotional nourishment, and moments of silence. If you only build outward and neglect what's within, exhaustion turns into illness. The soul asks for pause. There's also another significant challenge here: resistance to change. Since 4 seeks security, it can cling to structures that no longer serve jobs, relationships, habits, or even beliefs that no longer make sense. Your mission isn't to live tied to what's fixed, but to build structures that can adapt and evolve with you. Be firm like a tree with deep roots but flexible branches. When this number is well understood, it transforms into an immense spiritual strength. You become a pillar, a point of support for yourself and others, someone reliable, stable, present. Your energy starts to generate security, not demands. Your discipline becomes consistency. Your order becomes peace. Life begins to flow with more lightness when you understand that balance is different from rigidity. If your number is 4, your soul is asking you to build, but not just outwardly. Build yourself. With structure, yes, but with flexibility. With discipline, yes, but with affection. With commitment, yes, but without forgetting to live. Because when you learn to be the foundation of your own existence, you stop carrying the world and start, at last, to sustain yourself. If your karmic number is 5, your soul carries a mission deeply tied to freedom, movement, transformation, and the expansion of consciousness. The 5 is the number of restless souls, those who, even without knowing why, feel they weren't born to live within rigid patterns, strict rules, or stifling routines. In past lives, there may have been imprisonment, emotional, cultural, even physical. Now, in this life, the call is the opposite. Break limits, challenge structures, live with more lightness and truth. The energy of 5 brings a constant sense of searching. It's as if you're always looking for something, a place where you feel at home, an activity that truly makes sense, an experience that fills you completely. And this search, when not understood, can lead to anxiety, instability, and even a sense of emptiness. But the root of this isn't superficial. It's your soul asking for space. It wants to breathe, to reinvent itself, to live. The challenge of 5 is balancing freedom with responsibility. Often, those with this vibration start projects with enthusiasm, but don't follow through. They dive intensely into a relationship, then pull back. They engage, but fear losing individuality. And this pattern can repeat in various areas of life, creating a sense of disconnection from everything and everyone. The learning here is profound. True freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's knowing how to choose what, even in freedom, you want to keep. Another key point is impulsiveness. The soul of 5 needs to be cautious with hasty decisions, thoughtless words, or sudden changes born of impulse rather than consciousness. Your mission isn't to jump into everything, it's to move with wisdom. Your expansion should come from conscious curiosity, not disguised escape. Because sometimes, those who flee thinking they're seeking freedom are just trying to escape themselves. This number also carries immense potential for adaptability and creativity. The soul of 5, when awakened, has the ability to reinvent itself, learn quickly, and face the new with courage. You can be the person who turns crises into new beginnings, inspires others to break from complacency, and shows that life can be lived with more color. But this only happens when you anchor yourself within. Without this, freedom becomes dispersion and lightness, superficiality. The karma of number 5 dissolves when you understand that the world isn't a prison, but it's also not an escape. That life needs movement, yes, but also direction. When you find a greater purpose, something that truly connects you, the instability calms. You start to walk with more firmness. Not because you're tied down, but because you now know where you want to go. And that changes everything. If this is your number, your mission is to turn freedom into wisdom. You're here to show that living can be light, but not empty. That change is part of evolution, but fleeing is different from growing. And that the freest soul isn't the one that avoids root sits, the one that learns to grow wings with consciousness and knows when it's time to land. If your karmic number is 6, your soul carries a mission deeply tied to love, care, emotional responsibility, and building nourishing connections. The 6 represents the energy of the heart, home, family, empathy. In past lives, you may have experienced abandonment, emotional neglect, or relationships where you were overburdened. In this existence, the learning is clear. Love in a balanced way, without forgetting yourself. The soul with this vibration often comes with a strong sense of duty. From early on, you may feel the need to care for others, solve problems around you, keep peace in the family, or emotionally support those nearby. This may have even made you someone admired, respected, sought for advice and support. But internally, it can also create exhaustion, overload, and the feeling that you're always responsible for everything, even when you shouldn't be. The great challenge of number 6 is this: not losing yourself while caring. It's easy to fall into the trap of giving too much, expecting too much, wanting to save others, and forgetting to look at your own needs. People with this number tend to put their dreams, desires, and even emotional health on hold to handle others. And when they're not recognized for it, they feel frustration, hurt, or even silent anger. The karma lies in this dynamic: learning to love consciously without sacrificing your own soul. There's also, for many with 6, a tendency toward idealization. You may expect others to do for you what you do for them, and often this doesn't happen. That's where frustration arises. But the lesson here is tough and liberating. You can't love expecting reciprocation. True love is offering your best, but it's also knowing when to stop, when to withdraw, when to say no with firmness and love. The number 6 also calls for balance between perfectionism and acceptance. Often, you may have very high standards for yourself, others, life, wanting everything too perfect, too clean, too right. But this can lead to rigidity, judgments, and difficulty dealing with the natural imperfection of human relationships. The soul of 6 needs to learn to make room for mistakes, for improvisation, for life as it is without so much control, without so much weight. When this number is well worked, it transforms into a powerful healing energy. You start to care because you have love, not because you feel obligated. You learn to say yes with joy and no with tranquility. You build true connections, but without dependency. And the most beautiful part, you start to treat yourself with the same care you've always given others. The soul aligns, the heart rests, and life begins to reciprocate. If you have number 6, your mission is to create a field of affection, but without forgetting yourself. Love, yes, but without carrying the world on your shoulders. Care, yes, but without erasing yourself. You're here to remind people that love is the foundation of everything, but true love starts within. And when you understand this, the karma dissolves and what was weight becomes light. If your karmic number is 7, your soul carries a mission deeply connected to wisdom, inner searching, and conscious spirituality. This is the vibration of thinkers, those who feel there's something greater guiding everything, even if they don't know exactly what. The 7 is the number of the inner dive. In past lives, you may have been disconnected from yourself, surrounded by too much noise, too many distractions, too many external dependencies. In this life, your soul asks for silence, for depth, for inner truth. From early on, those with this number feel a bit different. You may struggle to fit in, to follow what everyone else follows, or to accept overly simple explanations for complex questions. There's a restlessness within you, as if something is always calling you to look deeper, to question, to investigate, to understand what's behind things. And this call isn't random, it's your soul trying to remind you where it came from. The great challenge of number 7 is not getting lost in the world of ideas. The search for answers can turn into obsession. The desire to understand everything can distance you from real life, from people, and even from yourself. You start living in the mind, analyzing everything, but not truly feeling. And that's where the karma arises. Disconnection, loneliness, emptiness. The 7 needs to learn that knowledge only becomes wisdom when it's lived, not just studied. True knowing happens when it moves from the brain to the heart. Another key point is difficulty trusting. Those with 7 tend to be more reserved, more selective, and often hold back feelings for fear of exposure. This can lead to superficial relationships or a constant sense of being alone, even surrounded by people. The learning here is profound. Opening up is part of the spiritual path. The soul of 7 needs to understand that protecting yourself too much is also a form of prison, and that you only truly reach others when you have the courage to show yourself. The karma of 7 also manifests in spirituality. In past lives, you may have ignored spiritual connection or used that knowledge in a distorted way. Now, your soul has the chance to do differently. You're called to awaken faith, but a faith born of experience, not repetition. The spirituality of 7 is silent, deep, intimate. It's not made of rituals, but of perception. Not of dogmas, but of presence. When 7 finds balance, it becomes a beacon of clarity in a chaotic world. You start to see what others don't, to feel what's behind words, to guide people without imposing, simply with your serene, centered, true presence. Your wisdom becomes healing, your calm becomes strength, your silence becomes an answer. And life begins to align in an almost magical way, because now you're connected to your essence. If this is your number, your mission is to access the deepest truth there is, yours. And to share that truth with the world, without fear, without isolation, without hiding your light. Because as lonely as your journey may seem, it's sacred. And when you understand that the spiritual path isn't escape, but a dive, the karma dissolves and, in place of pain, comes clarity, peace, the wisdom your soul has always carried. If your karmic number is 8, your soul carries a mission tied to inner strength, material responsibility, and the balance between power and consciousness. The 8 is the vibration of great achievements, but also great falls. In past lives, you may have experienced abuses of power, either wielding too much control or being a victim of it. You may also have had an imbalanced relationship with money, success, or matter. In this life, the lesson is clear. Transform power into service and success into consciousness. From early on, people with number 8 feel the world demands more from them. It's as if there's always a heavier weight on their shoulders. You may have had to mature quickly, take on responsibilities too soon, or learn to defend yourself in a demanding environment. This happens because your soul came with strong energy, and the universe, aware of this, places you in positions that require firmness, resilience, and leadership. But with this strength comes the test. What will you do with it? The challenge of 8 lies in balancing ambition with purpose. You may have a great capacity for achievement, strategic vision, talent for leading or building, but if this strength is guided only by ego, pride, or vanity, it turns against you. Emptiness arises, frustration, the feeling that nothing is enough. The karma here is clear. Power that doesn't serve the good destroys. Achievement without purpose imprisons. And the soul of 8 needs to learn to use matter as a tool, not an end. Another delicate point of this energy is control. Often, you may try to hold everything, make all the decisions, want things to happen your way. And when they don't, frustration, fear of failure, or a sense of loss arises. Life, then, shows you often through tough situations that not everything is under your control. The lesson is hard but necessary. True power comes when you learn to let go. When you understand that control is an illusion and that leading is, above all, trusting. People with this number also face big lessons tied to money. In past lives, there may have been excess or scarcity. Now, you need to develop a new relationship with prosperity. The 8 calls for balance, neither attachment nor rejection. Money should be a tool for building, not a source of guilt or obsession. When you understand that wealth is flow, not accumulation, that success is a consequence, not imposition, the financial karma starts to balance. When 8 finds this point of harmony, it transforms into a powerful archetype of conscious achievement. The soul becomes firm but fair, strong but compassionate, determined but with an open heart. You become an example of balance between the spiritual and material. You inspire trust, you build with meaning, you lead with soul. And everything starts to flow with more lightness, because now you're not fighting against life, you're building with it. If this is your number, Your mission is to reclaim the true meaning of power. Use your strength to serve, not to dominate. Use your mind to create, not to control. Use your gifts to achieve what's just, necessary, and aligned with your soul. When you walk with purpose, the karma of 8 dissolves and, in place of struggle, abundance arises. An abundance that starts within and reflects in everything around you. If your karmic number is 9, your soul carries a mission deeply tied to compassion, service, healing, and closing ancient cycles. This number represents old souls who've lived many experiences in past lives and now come to conclude important lessons. Often, people with this number feel they carry a different weight, an emotional responsibility they can't explain. And this feeling isn't random. The 9 comes to close, heal, clear not just for itself, but for others too. The soul of number 9 feels deeply. It absorbs, it's easily moved, it's sensitive to others' pain and often gets involved in problems that aren't its own. This happens because this number has a natural connection to collective pain. You may notice you attract people in suffering, difficult situations, or missions that demand devotion. And as tiring as this may seem, there's a deep purpose behind it. You have a gift for healing, and it manifests in your presence, your gaze, the way you embrace even in silence. The great challenge of 9 is learning to help without losing yourself. Often your soul will want to do more than it can, or feel guilty for not saving everyone. This is the strongest emotional karma of 9, feeling you need to carry the world on your shoulders. But the truth is, you didn't come to fix everything. You came to inspire, to transform by example, not by sacrifice. Healing begins when you understand that protecting yourself isn't selfishness, it's wisdom. Another key point is a tendency toward excessive idealism. The 9 has a very elevated vision of how the world should be. This can lead to frustrations, disappointments with people, life, reality. You expect depth, truth, reciprocity, but not everyone is ready for that. The lesson here is to accept others' imperfections without losing your own essence. When you stop expecting and start giving without expectation, everything begins to change. The karma of 9 is also tied to the past. Many with this number carry old grudges, unresolved stories, or a deep attachment to what's gone, and this can become an emotional prison. The soul of 9 needs to learn to forgive itself and others and to let go of what no longer serves. The path only opens when you stop looking back with pain and start looking with compassion. Because only then does the cycle close and liberation happens. When 9 finds balance, it becomes a force of unconditional love. The soul vibrates high, transforms with a glance, inspires without saying a word. You start attracting people who want to grow, environments that need light, paths that once seemed closed. All this because you stopped carrying everything and started to illuminate. And those who light the way for others inevitably find light in their own path too. If this is your number, your mission is to be a channel of love and healing. But first, you need to heal yourself, to love yourself, to respect yourself. When you understand you don't need to save anyone, and that your presence is already medicine, the karma dissolves, the soul rests, and life begins to flow with more lightness. The 9 came to close cycle sand. Doing this consciously is one of the greatest acts of spiritual liberation a soul can achieve. Now that you know your number, it's important to understand one fundamental thing. This number isn't a promise. It's not a label, it's a path, a call, a direction. But it doesn't guarantee anything on its own, because the universe never hands you anything on a silver platter. It points, it signals, it offers chances. But the one who walks is you. Many people get excited when they discover their karmic number, as if it will solve everything, as if now everything's explained, as if the pain will vanish just because the origin is understood. But the spiritual truth is deeper. Understanding is the first step. Transforming is the real work. This is where many stop. They want the map, but they don't want to make the journey. And this is precisely the invisible test the universe sets. What will you do with this information? Will you keep it as spiritual curiosity, or will you start observing, with more consciousness, the patterns in your life? Will you keep blaming the world, or will you accept your part with courage, with maturity, with emotional responsibility? The karmic number isn't a fixed destiny. It's a window of perception. It shows where you stumble, where you sabotage yourself, where you repeat patterns without noticing. But it also shows where your strengths lie, your forgotten talents, your opportunities for healing. But none of this comes ready-made. The universe doesn't give results, it gives signs. It's up to you to silence, listen, interpret, and act. You can have a beautiful number, full of gifts, full of light, but if you do nothing with it, it becomes a blockage, a demand from your own soul, because it knows your potential. It knows you've lived enough to stop repeating the same mistakes, and that's why it pushes you, challenges you, shakes you, until you truly start to awaken. The universe doesn't want perfection. It wants movement. It wants commitment. It wants intention. When you start walking toward your number even slowly, even stumbling things begin to align. Because karma doesn't vanish suddenly. It dissolves, step by step, as you commit to your own evolution. So keep this in mind. Your number is an invitation. A silent reminder of everything your soul can still become. And if you've heard this call this far, it's because you're ready. Ready to stop surviving and start living with meaning. Ready to break cycles. Ready to honor your story. Ready to evolve. If you've made it this far, it wasn't by chance. Something inside you is awakening. Something ancient, silent, that maybe doesn't even have a name, but you feel it. And you feel it strongly. The truth is, no one watches a video like this out of curiosity. They watch it because they're searching for answers, for clarity, for meaning. And more than that, for reconnection with something forgotten within themselves. What you heard here isn't a ready-made formula or a magical solution. It's a mirror, a reflection of your soul, a reminder of who you are, where you came from, and what you're still here to heal. Your karmic number is just the surface of something much bigger, your spiritual story. A story that didn't start now and won't end here either, but right now, it's asking for consciousness. It's asking for action. It's asking for courage. Courage to step out of autopilot, to stop repeating patterns that have hurt for too long. Courage to say enough to what no longer represents you. And above all, courage to look at yourself with more responsibility, because now you know. And when the soul knows, it no longer accepts living asleep. Most people ignore the signs. They go through life as if everything were coincidence, punishment, or bad luck. But not you. You stayed, you listened, you felt, and that already shows you're ready to start a new cycle. A cycle of more conscious choices, of truer relationships, of a life that doesn't repeat, but transforms. If this message touched something inside you, I invite you now to leave your like not just to support this work, but to symbolically affirm that you're committed to your own evolution. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell, and continue this journey with us. Here, what you find isn't ready-made answers but questions that liberate, reflections that touch, and paths that transform. And I have a special request. Leave the following phrase in the comments. I accept the call of my number. This phrase is more than a gesture. It's a declaration, a way to energetically record that you understood, that you received, and that you're ready. And who knows, in the comments, you might find other souls with the same number, the same challenges, the same pains. Because this journey may feel lonely inside, but it doesn't need to be walked alone. And if you want to go even deeper, watch the next video on the channel where we'll explore how to release karmic patterns that block your prosperity and emotional well-being. Because it's not enough to know what you carry, You need to know how to free yourself from it. Consciousness is the first step. Practice is what changes everything. Life is calling you. Your soul is remembering. And now, the next step is yours.